again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Bobby Mills, 1,000-yard guy, and we have taken End Zone Online on the independent.com on the road once again. And we have the pleasure today of being Hastings St. Cecilia High School with legendary football coach Carl Tesmer. I knew he'd say that. We're going to find out a little bit about Coach Tesmer today and not go in depth about his football team. We know how good St. Cecilia is doing this year. So, one thing I didn't know, Coach, is how long you've been teaching. Is it close to 45 years, maybe?
Getting close, Bobby. It's 44.
44 years
40
and
years.
A quarter of a century here, maybe?
This is my 25th year at St. Cecilia, and it's just hard to believe it's gone that long and that fast. But 25 years here. So,
Is this the only two Central Catholic?
Central Catholic and St. Cecilia's, and actually Walnut Junior High for a while I had Kenny Fisher for 2 years. So
Forgot about that.
that was a great experience there. Coach Fisher, just a tremendous coach, of course, and an outstanding experience for me to get involved with their sophomores and their JVs and help them with their varsity.
I'd forgotten completely about that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you didn't, obviously, because that's invaluable experience.
Oh.
It's just you can't even put a number on that. It's above 10. So when you went to Central Catholic, and that's we played together on the football team, and I think you graduated in 65, is that correct?
66.
And footballs. See, Carl, the year...
It's always, for me too, Bob.
It's 65, man. That's the football season, but 66. And I wondered and I never did know this, all the way through high school, did you ever have any aspirations of being a football coach?
You really don't think of it that way. You're enjoying athletics.
Right.
And for me, it was a situation where, I was limited as an athlete. I was slow. I was small. I wasn't very big. I wasn't very smart. Other than that, I wasn't a bad quarterback. But anyway, you realize that after high school, your days are over probably, and so you want to stay involved. And I thought, that's a great way to stay involved, get involved as a coach. And I had done some helping out with younger kids in high school, but it was kind of one of those things that developed over a desire to stay with athletics.
Coach, it's not a good thing to lie in a Catholic school about not being a good athlete, because we know how good you were. But anyway, where did you go to college?
Went to Kearney State, and where their football program was really good. Al Zickman was the head coach there. Man, they had some monsters running around there. Those guys were tough, Bobby, and it was a great program. But the nice thing about it is I got to take a coaching class under Coach Zickman, and it was a very good class. It was worth every penny of the education that I was spending money on, and then that plus Bob Lee. Bob Lee was my high school coach, and I learned so much from Bob. And you carry that whether you realize it or not. That's all part of your background and philosophy of coaching. And Bob was responsible for a lot of that, and an outstanding coach, of course. And then again, some college training there with Coach Zickman and Kearney State.
Those are pretty famous names when you think about Coach Zickman.
Really?
We've talked about Kenny Fisher, and of course, Coach Bob Lee is somebody that unfortunately I had a big gap in my life where I didn't connect with him. And in later years, Bill Dunn, bless his heart, said, "Bobby, you've got to connect with Coach Lee." And it ended up great. And I never realized how much the man knew until I started getting in depth with him. But those are pretty good influences. I can see how your coaching background is, what got you started. So back to Central Catholic when you were in high school, I think, how many kids did you have in your family? How many siblings? Because I remember Bob, and I was between you and Kenny, I believe.
Well, there were 4 brothers.
Okay.
4, but no girls. And Bobby was probably the best athlete of the group. He was a natural.
Wasn't he great?
Bobby was a natural. He did everything he could pick up a bat on the day of a tournament and hit 400, regardless of the sport. Play ping pong with you, football just tougher nails, and an outstanding basketball player, of course. So, and then I was third down. I had an older brother, Richard, who had graduated already and was in the Navy and kind of out of our personal life for a while. And then Bobby was there, and I was third down, and Kenny was below me. And Kenny, in his own right, was an outstanding athlete too. So I always felt I was kind of sandwiched in between 2 of the brothers that really got after it and were outstanding athletes, and I was lucky enough to have them kind of help me along.
Well, did you ever get a chance to actually play with Bob?
Just softball, baseball,
Oh, okay.
baseball and softball.
But football,
No.
Kenny,
No.
you were a senior. Kenny was a sophomore.
So yeah, that was, yeah, it was part of that.
Well, that was good. Now, you started out, I didn't realize this, you did start out coaching at Walnut Middle School, or it was junior high back then, right? Or was that your first coaching gig?
Actually, my first coaching, my first job teaching was at Blessed Sacrament Elementary School before it had closed. And
Okay.
Father Nelson approached me, realized I was going to graduate, and he said, "How'd you like to help us?" And I really, the connection there was that Blessed Sacrament offered me an opportunity to start in a junior high program coaching at Central Catholic. So I taught there for 2 years and coached at Central Catholic in the junior high for 2 years. And great experience. And then of course they closed the elementary school, and I went out to Central Catholic to teach. And then a year or two later, I think it was, Coach Steinley left, and so I got the opportunity to coach there.
How are your first years at Central Catholic? I don't recall that. That's all I recall is
Scary, Bob. You just, you think you're ready and you want to coach, but you don't realize just how, and I was lucky. We've been blessed. I've been blessed. We've had outstanding athletes at Central Catholic. Tremendous group of athletes when I started. And those kids kind of carry you through. They're hard workers, just like they are now at the school, and just like we have here. And so I've been lucky in that respect. But it was frightening, to start out, and you learn fast. You have to, just like in any job, and you make mistakes, and those things happen, but you learn fast. And I was blessed, very blessed, to have outstanding athletes, outstanding, hard-working kids.
Yeah, well, that's the Catholic education thing too. And that's back then that's a Class B program. So that's hitting the ground running, and you don't have much choice but either survive or not at there. But
and we're playing big games. We get to the playoffs. We're playing the McCooks.
Oh, yes.
And those are the Springfield Platteviews, and Pius was on our regular schedule, and so we really had our challenge with us, and a little bit of a change from the Luke Platte. Not that the Luke Platte isn't strong, very strong, but it was a step up, and we kind of got out of that conference, and I'm not sure why, but that was kind of toward the end of Bob's. I think Mike Fitzpatrick probably made that move a little bit more than anybody. It just seemed to me like when Mike took over after Bob, we kind of got out of that Luke Platte conference and got into another conference that had a lot of teams like Geneva and those types of schools in that area.
Right, I was in on that first change, and it was a shock. I mean, the Catholic conference was tough with St. Cecilia, Aquinas, and Scotus, but
forgot about that, Bob.
But then, we jumped and played Gothenburg and Kozad, and it was like a shock on the football field. But just and we survived that first year. But how about your first years coming over here to St. Cecilia?
I was helping there at Walnut, and Kenny Fisher and Larry Toner really helped me out. Larry gave me a little bit more work part-time, and Kenny asked me to be a part of the staff, and so I was able to stay in coaching, and I wanted to get back and be a head coach again, and the opportunity came up late in the summer over here at St. Cecilia, and I think it was one of the Aaron's coaches that left late to go to the east, and Monsignor McCabe and Jim Nimitz and the school board, a couple of members on the school board interviewed me late in July, of all things. And I remember telling my wife, I said, "Honey, I'll try it for 2 years, or for 1 year or 2 years. If I like it, I'll stay. If I don't, I'll try something else." And that was 25 years ago. So, but again, it was the same thing. I still remember, Bob, the first day going out just to meet the kids after I had signed the contract. Father Monsignor McCabe, great man. Took me out to see the boys out at the park. Here these kids are running out there, 100-yard wind sprints with no coach, with an assistant coach, no head coach, getting ready for a football, not knowing who their head coach was going to be. And so he introduced me there, and some great names, Jim Colbert and Jeff Susie and Tom Kreekak and Anderson, and it just goes on and on and on. But hard-working kids right from the start. I was blessed. I was lucky.
No, that's a good group to take over. Was there? Did I miss something, or was there no gap in between Central Catholic and here, or was
it? There was a 2-year gap.
2-year gap.
Yeah, it was 2 years, and I was at Walnut teaching social studies with Vicki Duell there, our principal, and I got the opportunity to coach at senior high because Kenny needed help there in a younger program. And what greater opportunity than to learn from the master on the whiz. And so it was just like it was kind of meant to be, I guess. But I learned so much from that.
I think the man upstairs might have helped on that one because
really
high school football needed Carl Tesmer. But you know, your lovely wife told me at one time that you had 4 goals, and I don't know when these goals were established in your mind, but correct me if I'm wrong. One was to win 250 football games. The other was to be a head coach in the Shrine Bowl, win a state championship, and I'm not sure about the 4th goal. I never did. I know it was those 3. Was there ever a 4th?
You know, I'm not sure either, but you know, right now you're just happy to be a part of things.
Oh, yeah, I know.
When you're young and you step out, you've got a lot of goals, and a lot of those have come. So I've been an assistant and a head, and you know, I've gotten some wins, and all that's kind of, as you get, you know, down the road here, Bobby, you're just happy to be a part of things, and still enjoy the game, enjoy the sport, enjoy the players, and it's a great game, of course, as you know, and so as far as goals, I've kind of run out. So, but overall, I'm still happy to be a part of things, and the relationships with kids are just, that's what it's all about.
Well, so are we, and so am I. But I don't know if any football aficionados for high school that know this, but this man has 327 wins, 75 losses, and 2 ties, as far as I can figure. And I think there's only one man in the history of high school football that has more wins than you, and that'd be Tom Jaworski, from the retired Creighton Prep coach.
You know, Bobby, I don't know that for a fact. My daughters keep track of that. My oldest daughter, Trudy, and she's mentioned that, but it's nothing that it's not written on a billboard anywhere.
That's not Carl Tesmer.
And you know, it's nothing that I look at every day. And if that's what it is, that's what it is. But
That's amazing. I can't picture that now. This is how many years you've been coaching? Has to be over 40 years.
Head coach 40 years. This is my 40th year as a head coach. I've been coaching 44. You know, junior high and assistants.
I can't see where you'd ever have a losing season. Can you remember one?
I think we had 1 or 2 there at Central Catholic. I know we haven't here, and the only reason I know that is Coach Aaron's reminds me of that every year, and that's kind of one of his goals. He's been an assistant. Talk about numbers, and Coach Aaron's and I have been together for 25 years here at the school. He started when I started, and when we won a 5th game last week, he said, "Coach, do you realize that we have never had a losing season here?" And I said, "That's really neat, but those things happen, and eventually, you know, things like that happen. But that is a neat situation to be in, and we've had some losing seasons, but I don't keep track of it."
And if you can't recall, then that's a really good sign. There's a coach by the name of Mark Wortman that's 1 win behind you. And the amazing thing, and you're 16 behind Jaworski. So the amazing thing to me is Wortman's got a lot of kids to work with at Elkhorn. You don't hear, but year after year, the desire of these St. Cecilia kids is just always there. And how long have you had your coaching staff intact, the nucleus of it?
Well, basically, the neat thing about this year is I've got a couple of graduates that are back, like Seth Alley played for me. Mm-hmm. And then Seth went on and played at Concordia College, so it's great to have him back. Bill Vogel played at Pius, and he's a math teacher here, and he's a young, energetic guy. So both of those guys, and then Greg Barrett has played at Hastings High School, and he's an outstanding athlete and coach, and he helps in the basketball program. So we're lucky to have them, but it's basically been Randy and I and Jim Jackson and Gene Conan have been with me for about 10 years, but Randy and I have kind of stayed together for 25 years. He's our defensive coordinator, and he's helped kind of provide a lot of continuity. While I was at Central Catholic, Keith Kester was that guy that just kind of was there all the time.
I didn't realize Keith was there that many years.
Yeah. And Keith was so loyal and so hardworking, and kind of really. But it was in and out there, you know. Tom Ketchikow and Bob Lee came back and helped a little bit, and then a lot of other assistants. Jim McLaren helped a lot of different people. Anyway.
So that makes a big difference in the young guys, and it's not because we're old and don't know anything, or you, But that helps bridge a gap a little bit to the players as far as age goes, that they should listen to an old wise man.
It's a big help, Bob. It really is, because they do relate, and yes, I'm kind of the old timer and I'm kind of the mean guy, but it's nice to have those younger people there. And I'm telling you, they do a great job. In fact, Seth Alley is our offensive coordinator and just does a great job with the team. And Bill Vogel again. Bill played at Pius, then he played at UNO, and then when UNO dropped football, Bill went to Villanova of all places.
Well, I didn't know that.
And played a lot there. So, and kids love youth. They just love the
Thank you.
And
Bill's good at it.
And it's a mixture. We call it a mixture, but it's nice to have both on your coaching staff, because if we were all a bunch of old timers, I'm sure it would. But it's nice to have that young blood there.
It's a little tougher. It's nice to have the younger guys, and of course they have to respect you, and I'm sure they do. But so you've won 3 titles. The first one I remember was 2000 when you beat Wahoo Newman, and that was the first one. And then I think you were runner-up in somewhere back in the 90s, if I recall.
95, we had 6 seniors. And boy, those kids played their hearts out, and we lost to Oakland Craig in that final here. And but it was we thought we had it. We were up.
I know. I remember that.
Stay with it. So, and then when I was at Central Catholic, we actually had 3 runner-up teams there. So, and they were close games. Doggone, all but two of the 3 were close. The one was kind of got away from us, but the game with Schuyler was close. That was a 1-pointer, and it came down to a drop snap punch. So those things happen. And that was a great group of kids, hard-working group of kids. Rick Brown and Mike Allen and Don Doherty and Gene Conley and Pat Sullivan. You just don't forget those names.
No, you don't.
And Bob Hutton, up there in the line, and Joel Smith, and it just goes on and on. Those kids played their hearts out, Bobby, against a team that I would have said they would have taken us to the cleaners, and we almost won the ball game. So we've had some. I've been blessed. I'm blessed with great quarterbacks. Lucky to have people that could lead and be leaders, be runners, contribute. Just blessed in that way.
And that couldn't have been a reflection of their coach, could it?
I don't know. I'm just glad they got it done. So.
That Schuyler game was actually the first year of the organized playoffs, wasn't it?
Yes, and there were only 4 teams that made it. And we were one of the 4 that got in there, and went all the way and played at Schuyler in the cold. If I'm not mistaken, the wind chill was 20 below 0 that night.
I remember that. It was,
bitter cold, which probably helped our cause a little bit more. It was a great game against a Schuyler team that was, Gene Hunting was the coach there, and they had some horses. But our kids were a lot of those blue-collar kids that you get at Central Catholic and St. Cecilia.
What do you think the biggest changes in high school football have been since you've started coaching?
I think the spread.
Yeah.
I've got an assistant coach now that is basically, Seth Alley has convinced me that it's the way to go. And I said, Seth, if we're going to do it, you're going to have to help me, and you're going to have to call it. And he's gotten it installed pretty much in our JV program. And, he's our offensive coordinator, and he can call it on the high school level. He's called games before for us. And I think the spread is here to stay. I didn't think it was going to be here, Bobby. I really did. Coach Fisher always said you can't run an offense without a fullback and a tight end. And now the spread is here. So I really and truly believe it's here. I'm not sure I like it as much, but it's at all the levels, and it's here to stay. And it's sneaking into that pro level yet too before it's over. But it'll be interesting to see if that continues. Defenses usually catch up with it. They caught up with the wishbone, and they catch up with things, and so it'll be interesting to see. They're already starting to catch up with the spread, but it's a lot of fun. It's a nice offense. It really is.
It's very exciting.
For sure, for people now. And Coach Stein over there at Northwest is just doing a great job, and coach at senior high there, Jeff, is just, gosh darn, those guys are just doing a great job.
Well, but you have to have speed to run that, I think,
And the thing that I've read on it is you have to have a quarterback that can run and throw.
Yep.
If the quarterback can't run and throw, you're wasting. He's got to be able to do both if you're going to be successful.
Well, I think you have to adapt to the times, and one of the great illustrations would probably be Ethan Morrison from Millard North breaking the school passing record. You know, they usually throw 20-some times a year, and he threw 20 times in that game.
And I thought, well, the weather, the Nebraska weather, it's just not going to allow it.
Yeah.
But it's, and I think I'm not sure who would have broken that, but I think Donovan here a couple of years ago in their spread really did a good. I didn't think a state championship you could really win one in a spread.
I didn't either.
And I think it's coming. So, and going to see more of it. But God bless Ron Mimick and coaches that are committed to the trenches, because those guys still get it done, and their kids are hard nosed, and there's more. There's two sides to that. So.
I know. Is there anything that you haven't? Well, yeah, seriously, and I'm from the old school too. Run right at him, man. You got to have a fullback. But is there anything that all the years that you've done, that you wish you had done and haven't done yet, as far as coaching? I can't think of one myself.
No, I think when you start out in coaching, and this is not, I don't know why I'm bringing it up, but I think you always think that maybe you're going to progress on at certain levels, and that you're going to start at a certain level and go to another level of coaching and go on. And I really have no regrets about being here. I love it. And I remember talking to Monsignor McCabe about that one time, about interviewing for a job, and it was a while back, and the job didn't come through, whatever, and it was one of those things. And I asked Monsignor, I said, is this it? Does that mean this is it? He said, you know what? He said, what better thing to have on your tombstone than you gave 40 years to Catholic schools? And I thought, well, what a neat thing to say. And so maybe that might have been way, way back, Bob. You know how it is when you always have aspirations of.
Sure, I remember the day.
Yep. And then you finally realize that you are where you are, and you're enjoying it, and stay with it.
Well, we're glad you're
money
here.
Isn't everything.
Well, no, I know that, and Coach. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because if you were paid what you were worth, they couldn't afford to have you, any of you, because it's a tough gig. You gotta love it, man. And
right, and we're all in this boat together, regardless of what school or where we're at. We're all earning our money.
That's right. Two more things.
Yes.
Every time, not every time, but late in the season, sometimes when I see you, this is your last year. What? You always tell me, Bobby, this could be what keeps you going?
I think love of the game, and although that, and then I constantly I'm my own critic, and I think eventually when you say to yourself, you're not getting it done, then you better get out.
Yeah.
And you have to do that. And sometimes someone else will tell you that. Sometimes you have to decide that on your own, whether you're actually doing the best job you can with the talent you have. And so at this point, I still feel like I can contribute a lot, but I do feel I've got a staff here that could take over and get a job done just as well, if not better. So those kind of things enter into the picture, and those are decisions. I've talked to my administration here, about the last 4 years, where I've said, hey, if you've got people that are ready to go, and you got people that have got the complaint department starting to kind of take over, let me know, because the last thing I want to do is stand in the way of any of a young coach that wants to go on and into who is now where I was at 40 years ago. So, but love of the game and the love of the relationship with kids, and the feel that I can still get something done still helps me with this with a decision that I probably look at more than you realize.
And it's not like, and you drive from Grand Island every day, don't you? And that makes it tougher. So you have to love it.
Sure. I maybe someday I'll help with maybe as an assistant or something in a program. I'm not sure, but you always realize that point is coming, and each year it gets it's closer to the end than it is to the start. So that. So that's an interesting question, and it is something that I think about more often than people. Well, I shouldn't say that people realize. You get that question asked quite a bit. I have a grandson down in the 5th grade. I am not gonna. I'd love to coach it. I have no desire to. So I don't know how many more years I've got left.
Well, I'll tell you, sometimes before I go to bed, and I've got a bad back, but I get down on my hands and knees and pray that you coach until you're 100 years old, Carl.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, the game needs Carl Tesmer, and the wins obviously speak for themselves. But one final question, and this is going to be a tough one. Do you think there's high school football up there?
Never thought of it before. Never.
Well, I've got a proposition for you right now.
I love it.
If I make it, and I know you're going to make it, and you play quarterback or coach up there, and I promise to block, would you have me on your football team?
You know you would be. This I tell you, you're one of those quick kids. Bobby brought to our program some quickness, some agility, some speed, something more than the straight ahead plowers that we had, and we had a lot of them. And that was what we needed, and every team needs that. So yeah, there's always room on our team for Bobby.
Well, I'll tell you what. If there wasn't so much more high school football to be watched, I'd say the Lord can take me now. So I'm happy. So.
And you're doing a great job with the 1,000-yard club, and I think that's probably your way of staying involved and keeps you going, and yet that's a nice honor for those kids too. So that works two ways that way also, Bob.
Well, Coach, I don't know if you realize it, but this has been a real thrill for me to talk to you. And we don't talk to each other enough. Someday we'll sit down, and when you're all through, and hopefully it'll be a long ways away, we can talk about football. It might take about 3 months, but anyway, let's make it. Ladies and gentlemen,
it's been a pleasure.
Carl Tesmer, Hastings St. Cecilia. Been a real pleasure for me. For End Zone Online on the independent.com, this is Bobby Mills. We'll see you next time.